The Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today, friends, we have another exciting guest on this podcast. He's exciting for more reasons than one. One is he's with one of our favorite parties around here, the Libertarian Party, and also he's from a state I lived in for the first part of my life, South Dakota. His name is Greg Zimmerman. He's running for an elected representative position. He can tell us more about that. So welcome to the podcast, Greg.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We're glad to have you. If we could get started by you kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
So I've been born and raised in South Dakota my entire life. Obviously, I've traveled outside, obviously, but sorry about that. There was a quick stop on the interstate.
No worries.
Wow, that kind of caught my attention. I'm born and raised in South Dakota. I've traveled outside quite a bit, but I've always found myself coming back. And it's because I like the, even as we were talking about how Sioux Falls has grown so much, you still can get somewhat of a small town feel there even.
Yes. Yep.
But I am now that my wife and I, we actually moved out to an acreage. We kind of decided that even Sioux Falls was growing a little big for our liking, so we've I do adopt a country farmstead lifestyle, as you could say, I guess.
Okay. So how far is that from Sioux Falls?
About 33 and a half miles door to door.
North. Okay. So I grew up in Brookings and Sioux Falls, and unfortunately I forget, Brookings is south of Sioux Falls, right?
On a tiny little round lake, and it's up by Lake Madison.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like it's a nice area up there.
Yeah, it is. It's been growing lately, it seems. So the wife and I have kind of talked. We're like, well, how long do we want to stay here before we go and find something else?
Oh yeah.
We're going to be leaving.
Sure.
I think we're probably just gonna stick to where we're at. So.
Sounds good. So how about for career? What do you do for a job?
Well, I started life as an electrician.
Okay.
I kind of grew up working. So my mom was a single mom, and her parents, so my grandma and grandpa, lived right down the street. So after school and weekends and summers, to keep me out of trouble, I was sent with grandpa to work. And so from the age of 5 on, I was pouring concrete or setting concrete forms or framing walls in or cutting pipe and wire for him to use. And so I kind of grew up in the construction industry.
Okay.
And so that I really enjoy it, but it comes to a point that, it doesn't matter what part of the construction industry you work in, you cannot do that forever and expect to have a decent body by the time you retire.
Oh, sure.
So the wear and tear on my back and joints and everything, and so my grandpa always pushed me to go to college because he said, I don't want you to turn out like me, except that, he was exactly who I wanted to turn out like, but he had a good point, and so he pushed me really to go to college, and being that I had kind of the construction background, I ended up with a degree in electrical engineering, and so. Yeah, and when I kind of found of all the engineering sectors, it just made the most sense to me as far as it came almost like second nature a little bit as far as, some people, are on the civil side are more, what do you want to say, they can look at a bridge and it just makes sense to them, whereas I can look at, an entire computer code or an entire, wiring cabinet, and it just makes sense.
Sure.
So I found my way through where I was kind of doing half field work, half engineering, I worked everywhere from ethanol plants to meat processing plants, et cetera,
Okay.
programming automated machines. And then I ended up getting recruited into a spot where I now just program automation and design control panels for clients.
Okay. So how has those two careers, electrician and electrical engineer, informed your political views?
On the engineering side, I would say probably not that much.
Okay.
Other than, so one of my, main annoyances with the entire political system is how politicized just being environmentally friendly has become.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense to me. Now, I understand, getting mad at, government pork and earmarks going to projects that actually don't make sense environmentally. But as an engineer, there's no reason we shouldn't be trying to reduce what we use, recycle what we do, and et cetera. Part of what I've done with my automation career has been more trying to make everything more efficient, more reliable, et cetera, because of the same reason. And I think that's kind of why I like where I'm at, because I have a passion just to make things work better, so to say.
Sure. Okay, so you're saying that you think people are going too far with environmentalism and making it too political when it doesn't need to be?
Yeah. It just, and my mom is one of them, My mom is a staunch Republican that if anything comes up in the government about, we're going to pass this for, environmentally friendly, et cetera, she wants to fight it right away.
Okay.
And, on the opposite side, you get the far left Democrats that anything that's for the environment, they have to do it. They should force everybody to do it. And
Sure.
I'm more in the middle of, hey, let's actually evaluate these on if they're going to work or not, and let's quit just trying to throw money at the problem and actually solve it.
Okay. Sounds good. So what led you to the Libertarian Party?
Everybody in my family, I was going to say they were Republicans as long as I remember, but I want to say my mom voted for Clinton way back when. I think, I want to say my family was probably more of a, what do you want to call them, a Kennedy Democrat.
Okay.
And once our views didn't change, it was that the Democrat Party went so far left that they were calling people with moderate views far-right extremists. And that's kind of what drew me to the Libertarian Party, being that, the Republicans said some stuff I liked as far as fiscal responsibility, et cetera. I liked the Democrat side on, some environmental issues, et cetera. But neither party really encompassed a lot of my beliefs. And the Libertarian, the fiscally conservative and socially liberal, and so that ended up working out pretty well for, I think, a lot of people in my age group, to be honest.
Okay.
But, so I kind of just started looking at the Libertarian Party and realized, I'm reading into it a little bit. Right away, I'd be like, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But then you really start looking at a lot of these issues, and the start of the problem can be traced back to when the government got involved in it. And it's not that we shouldn't try and fix things, as a government, but we should quit trying to control the market and control everything about it.
Sure. So you said you grew up, your family was similar to what John F. Kennedy was back in the day, that type of Democrat. So then, did you meet somebody to join the Libertarian Party, or did you do research on your own? What circumstances got you there in particular?
I think I kind of just came to it on my own.
Okay.
And I want to say when it was when Ron Paul ran.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, everything that Ron Paul said, it was like, this just seems logical. Why are people fighting this? And, you know, the more I read into it, I went, you know, oh, okay, this is where I belong, I think.
Sounds good. So,
you know, my mom, when I told my mom I was voting for Ron Paul during that election cycle, she, you know, she kind of did the whole, well, if you're not voting for the Republican, you're just wasting your vote. I was like, well, I mean, in all fairness, in the Electoral College, a lot of us are just wasting votes. So I go, I'm gonna go ahead. I know that South Dakota is going to go to a Republican no matter what, so I'm just going to vote for who I want anyways.
Good point, yeah. So how does she respond to that?
More or less just tried to pass it off. She is still a registered Republican, is, you know, a Trump supporter, et cetera, which, I mean, I'm actually for Trump, to be honest.
Oh, interesting.
But, yeah, she just kind of, well, Greg will be Greg. And, you know, that's kind of the way I've gone about everything is, I think I have a little bit of, on the spectrum more than most people do with my engineering, and then it's everything I do, I'll stand on principle. I mean, there isn't a molehill I won't die on.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So for this race in particular, can you please describe the demographics of your districts, South Dakota as a whole? Because we were talking at the beginning of the podcast, South Dakota only has one representative, so that would encompass the whole state. So people may not be familiar with South Dakota, they may know it's one of the Midwestern states. And can you please describe your area, as you see the political landscape and the demographics of South Dakota? You were talking to me earlier that some of it has been changing in recent times. So if you could please speak to that for our audience and understand where South Dakota is at now, to get a clear idea of the state you want to represent.
Right. Yeah, I mean, South Dakota on a whole, obviously we vote Republican about every election cycle that I know of. But if you look county by county, there are a number of counties that go Democrat each time. They tend to be the reservation counties, and I don't know if Sioux Falls, Minnehaha, and Lincoln County went Democrat or not last time. I don't remember, but I know that being a larger urban area tends to maybe lean a little bit more than the surrounding area towards the Democrat side. Rapid City, on the other hand, I think for the most part they've stuck pretty staunchly on the right side.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, I mean, and that's statewide, yeah. As far as my district, so District 8 is what is the district I'm running for representative in, and it's kind of an interesting district because it encompasses three full counties that are just north of Minnehaha, just about half an hour north or whatever, and then it encompasses all of Brookings County, but not Brookings itself, which is its own district.
Huh.
And so it kind of makes sense when you start looking at it. Brookings is its own demographic. I mean, it's a college town. And so it's going to have it should get a representative that will stand for those people. Whereas everything surrounding Brookings and the other three counties, where it's basically small farming towns, and Madison's in there obviously, but yeah, it's a large farming community is really what I would be representing.
Okay. So what's your libertarian vision for the race? What issues do the South Dakotans need helping with, and what issues as a whole in the country do you seek to bring your libertarian vision to in this position?
What was that again?
How are you implementing your libertarian vision in this race, how are you going to represent South Dakota with your libertarian views?
Right. So the main reason that I even decided to run was because of it was called Senate Bill 201 here in South Dakota. And it was actually written by the senator from District 8, and then it was supported by one of the two representatives from District 8. And what Senate Bill 201 did was they called it a landowner Bill of Rights, and it was no such thing. Casey Crabtree is the senator for District 8, and he basically he took campaign money to more or less pass laws for Summit Carbon Solutions to try and take our land through eminent domain easements. So there's a big project where they're trying to pipe all of the CO2 produced at all these ethanol plants up to North Dakota, where they're going to bury in the ground, which doesn't really solve anything. And it's not even that most of us up here are anti-pipeline. Like, it's just that if we don't want it, or if we don't think we're getting fair compensation for our land, then a private corporation shouldn't be able to use the government to come in and take that from us.
Oh, sure.
And so that was, I actually had a good friend that ran in the primary for state rep against the incumbent and lost. And so I kept telling him, I go, you better win because I don't want to have to get in on this. And then he lost, and I went, oh, crap, now I have to get in on this.
Huh.
And so I had to make good on my threat that I was going to do everything I could to make sure that somebody actually stood up for the rights of
Okay.
So, I mean, that's the main reason that I even got involved in politics is I'm sick of our elected representatives taking corporate money to just sell off our rights.
Yes. Okay, so that's Senate Bill, you said 201, right?
Yes.
Okay, so are they going to vote for it soon, or what's happening with that?
It was passed.
Oh,
However, yep. Then right afterwards, there was a grassroots movement, and we got enough petition signatures to turn it into a referred law. And so, coming up in November, one of the ballot questions is now referred law 21. And basically, the South Dakota citizens can vote it down and tell all of those representatives that didn't want to protect us, well, that's why we protect ourselves. And so we're basically, the current I have heard is that everybody is pretty much going against RL 21, which is good. And so I'm fully expecting that to be voted down come November.
Okay. So in South Dakota, you call it referred laws?
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not sure of the entire system of how it works, other than I know if our state government passes a law, if you get enough signatures of people that say, no, we need to talk about this more or less, how do you want to say it? That at that point, if you get enough signatures, then it can be pushed onto the ballot where the people get to vote on it, not just the representatives.
Okay. So that sounds a little different than the way other states do it. So that's good that you have that option there. So since South Dakota is rural and you said your district is rural, has it been a challenge to get out to all the voters, or have you found a way to do that?
So it's challenging in a number of ways. Number one, because of how rural it is, like you said. I've actually been able to talk to quite a few people at meetings that have been specifically about this pipeline. And
okay.
so, in a number of counties, there's are happy about this. We're
Okay.
attending these meetings, and so I would go to those and make quite a few connections at those, and then stand up and talk and introduce myself.
Okay.
What I have found, and it depends on who you talk to, but I have found some that I think my biggest hurdle is going to be the fact that I don't have R in front of my name on the ballot. There's so many people that when they look at the ballot, it's, oh, well, that's my party, so I better vote that way.
Okay.
And so I think this pipeline has really helped because people were really dissatisfied with the Republican incumbent that voted for it. And so they're looking for other options, and so now they're willing to consider other parties like libertarians.
Oh, good. That sounds like a good opportunity for you.
Right. It's if one of us can get in the state representatives, that's just a foothold for more of the liberty movement to get in there.
Oh, good. Yeah, good point. So what's the ballot access procedures for getting on the ballot? Did you have to go through a lot, or did the party already
No.
have status?
It was pretty simple. I got a friend, my good friends is the secretary of the state party, and we were talking back and forth, and I kind of mentioned I was thinking about running, and he, kind of brought it up, and then he'd drop it, and then he'd bring it up, and so he finally convinced me. He's like, this isn't going to take a lot of work. And so as far, if I was an independent candidate, I would have had to get 5,000 signatures.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know what the reasoning is. He was explaining it to me one time, and then we got distracted and started talking about something else. But as far as it's something about since the Libertarian Party has fielded a presidential representative in the last certain number of election cycles, that I just had to be nominated by the party, and that was it.
Oh, good. Good.
And and maybe that's not. I want to say that's what the rule was, but I'm not 100% certain on that.
Okay. So, in other words, you didn't have to gather their signatures. You already had the option to be on the ballot without doing anything in that regard.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
it was basically at the state meeting, it was more or less, okay, well, who wants to run for this? Who wants to run for that? And as long as there's no conflicts of two people wanting to run for the same position, it was, all right, nominate them. They're going to run. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's neat how that works for alternative parties. So then there's less division. So
Right.
I think it would be. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be hard if there's a small party and you're friends with somebody and you have to run for the same race. So that would. So I'm glad that works out for. I've heard that in other parties too, where if they avoid running people against each other unless absolutely possible. So then as many possible slates can be filled. So that's good.
Right.
So who else is running for the Libertarian Party in South Dakota at the nomination meeting?
There are a couple other state representatives. I forget the name of the one, but one of them is Josh Denner. What district is he? I want to say he's District 20. That might be right.
Okay.
I believe that we fielded a Public Utilities Commissioner candidate, and then I think somebody's running for governor, but I'm sure you've seen Governor Nome in the news, and I don't think she's going to be losing anytime soon. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, unfortunately.
Right. It's there's not a lot of people that are very happy with her right now, but again, it's one of those, if they don't know the other parties, they see an R and they're going to vote the R.
Yeah, so they don't like her, but there's nothing they can do about it. Sounds like, right?
Right. And it's not that she does everything she does is bad either. It's just that a lot of what she does just doesn't seem to. There are times where she votes in favor of freedom and liberty, right? But
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to have any rhyme or reason in that she only sometimes lines up with the position of ensuring our freedom when it's benefiting her for some reason.
Oh, okay. So you see her self-centered.
I would say, yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's good that it's good that there's some other people in the South Dakota Libertarian Party coming across. You're saying that as you were in the meetings for the pipeline, that was a good way to introduce yourselves to the candidates. How else have you been getting the word out for your campaign?
So being that I'm the Libertarian Party, I don't exactly have a lot of funding.
Oh, sure.
So I've been doing as many free things as I can, obviously. I'm on Facebook with my page quite a bit in the different political groups, making comments, making sure people see, and mentioning, hey, just so you know, I'm running, and I'm running because I stand for this, which our representatives aren't. And coming up here, I'm going to be doing a little more door knocking. And then I've got a couple different organizations in the area that are actually, we're meeting together, we're getting together, and they're going to be sending their people out, talking about, number one, Referred Law 21 and a few other things. But they would like to mention, hey, if you support RL 21, well, we've got a candidate that does too, so.
Okay. So are you running this race by yourself, or do you have some team supporting you?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the actual campaign, it's basically me. Other than, so there's others in the Libertarian Party. I've got a friend, Devin, who is doing all of my graphics because I can't do anything with Photoshop, and he's great at it. So, he does our pictures and all of that, and then I've got a couple other guys in the state party that just kind of keep pushing the word out for me on the state Libertarian pages too. So.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So now we're recording this at the end of August, and then your campaign is in November, your election. So are you doing anything special for the last stretch of the campaign, or are you continuing doing what you're doing?
What I've been doing seems to be working really well, and people are really receptive to it. And so I think if I keep seeing an increase in interest like I have, I'm probably going to keep the tried and true method.
Okay.
If I can get a little bit of funds, I might throw some Facebook ads out.
Sounds good.
But yeah, as far as like what I have found is, especially like at these pipeline meetings, is getting out there, shaking people's hand, telling them, and standing up and introducing yourself to the entire room, and saying, "Here's my cell phone number. I am open for a discussion anytime you want, but I would appreciate your support." And that's kind of what has really seemed to been helping me more than anything else.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I haven't heard anything quite like that before, so that's a good thing you're leveraging those meetings in that way.
Right. Just given that our district's dissatisfaction with how the representatives handled it, I think that's going to those meetings and saying, hey, there's another option, has been really helping. Sure.
So given that, how can our audience support you in your campaign?
Right now, I would say the best thing would be to like my Facebook page and share my statuses on there to other political groups that they know of, and kind of just get the word out that, there are representatives out here that are standing for our personal liberties. We just have to pick them.
Sure. Good point. All right, Greg, thank you for going on the podcast today and talking about your campaign. We appreciate hearing what you have to say.
No, absolutely. I appreciate it.
All right, we wish you the best in your campaign and everything else you do in your personal and professional life.
Thank you very much.
Bye now.